there's no guns allowed in the school, because we're good people and we follow the rules, so we just assume everyone else is like us. And it's very short-sighted to look down that road. We're not, just because we will do things correctly, we cannot assume that other people will. We see that every day.
Any other questions? Anyone want to come to the mic? I have some of my own, but I want to get everybody's discussion going.
I think I would like to offer a correction. My name is Monty Schmiggy. I serve on the school board for the West Bend School District. Several months ago, the issue of weapons in school came up because we were reconsidering a policy and modifying an existing policy. And at that time, I did some research. Of course, the policy stated that it was would not be allowed to have this, that, and the other thing in school. And I did some research and I found that pepper spray is allowed by federal law. Is not classified. I forget the exact words. Dangerous weapon is probably not it, but is not classified in that category. Now, there are certain restrictions with regard to what constitutes lawful pepper spray, and I don't know exactly what they are. I hope that if I go to the store to buy some, it's going to be lawful. But it cannot be possessed by, I believe, children under 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
But it can be possessed by teachers, and it may not be the most effective weapon. I understand that. That's certainly true. But it is something that a person, especially an adult, teacher or otherwise, in a school can use for protection for themselves and possibly for others. I fought to exclude the exclusion in the policy for pepper spray, and so that was removed from the list of items that were not allowed. Of course, there are qualifications. Like I said, you have to be an adult and so on. And you can't use it arbitrarily for bad purposes, not for protection. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I did some research last night about the law and what we would call any other weapon aside from a firearm. And I believe the state statute is 938, which says if you carry any other weapon that is covered by your concealed carry permit, and that would include an impact weapon like baton or pepper spray or a knife. If you carry that onto school property, you may not use it. You may not. It must be put away. You're not allowed to use it. Now, if we get into a legal debate or something goes to court that we're effectively using this weapon in a legal self-defense mode, I'm sure that the attorneys would just have a field day arguing both sides of this. But as our state statute reads right now, carrying a weapon for any non-law enforcement officer into the school of a weapon, it must be put away, it must be secured.
Are there any parents out there that might be a little concerned about what is the training that would go into having a staff member be able to have a concealed carry? What kind of training would make you feel comfortable? Does anyone have that question?
Yes.
Okay, because I do. Trying to figure out who's best on the panel. Anybody want to take the question?
I don't think that you can say that there's a certain amount of training that's ever going to make you absolutely positively ready to confront a school shooter. I think the most training that you can get is the amount that you need. And I think that to look at what I have already completed, to understand that I am anxious to take more, I think you have to understand that whenever you agree or sign up to concealed carry, you need to know what you're doing. And I guess I would defer to Sean, because Sean has children in my classroom, or has had, still does, and I would defer to him to ask him why he would trust me to take care of his children in a classroom setting in a school shooting. Sean, can you answer that?
Well, I would trust Mr. Moss to protect my children because I personally know him. It really does upset me that he has to only protect my child with a baseball bat when up against a potential firearm. If I know Mr. Moss has been a hunter, he is very familiar with guns, and I would trust him 100%. And each school, I think, can make up their own mind on how much training they want their school to have. There's a lot of different kinds of school. There's schools in the cities, there's schools in the country up north. It's completely different. And I think each school should decide for themselves how much training they have. But
What's the law right now for having a concealed carry weapon? How many hours of?
There is no definition on the number of hours of training you must have for a concealed carry permit in the state of Wisconsin. I have railed against the concept that you can't get a concealed carry permit in the state of Wisconsin simply with a hunter education card. The rules for the state of Wisconsin concealed carry laws show that as an instructor, I must teach someone how to safely handle their firearm, safely store their firearm, and discuss the laws concerning the use of deadly force when you can and cannot employ deadly force against someone else. That's basically it. What the general public tends to see as the gold standard in training is they say, well, police officers carry guns because they're trained. And as a graduate of the Wisconsin Law Enforcement Recruit Academy, I can tell you that my 520 hours of training through the LIRA provided me just about 42 hours of firearms training. The vast majority of that is what's called deadly force decision making and the legal aspects of choosing when you can and cannot shoot. Because law enforcement officers fall under the same laws. We have to follow the same laws as civilians, but we have to understand them much more properly because we're entitled to carry a firearm and we may have to use it in the scope of our job. And no disrespect to any administrative staff down here, but everything that I do as a patrol officer is reviewed by the administrative staff to make sure that the department does not come under any legal jeopardy. So I can tell you that my annual qualification for shooting for the Village of Iola Police Department is 60 rounds. And the most difficult thing they tell me to do is take a large step to the left and shoot 3 rounds at a target in 7 seconds. So I don't want people to, first of all, I am a law enforcement officer, so I don't want to disparage law enforcement officers, but I don't want people to think that we are magically trained as Jason Bourne or John Rambo or something like that. The vast majority of my law enforcement training is to speak with people effectively and deal with people on an effective human level. So you see from the handout that we provided from the USCCA, in the vast majority of cases where we have an active shooter situation or a school shooter situation, any response stops the shooter's activity, any response whatsoever. In several cases at the mall shooting in Washington, a concealed carry permit holder just made a verbal challenge to the shooter, and that stopped the shooter from what he was doing. What we need to do is have some means to get that shooter out of his own head. He is no longer thinking about shooting a bunch of children. He's now thinking that he might get shot, and he has to change his activity.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. If you just give your first name and what school.
My name is Mary. I don't have kids in school right now, but I'm from West Bend. A couple of things. I think this is a great idea. I think that we should all have the right to protect ourselves. And I think it's a really neat first step to go to the private and parochial schools. I didn't realize that the bill entailed that, because parents have a right to choose to send their kids there or not. And I think that parents then have the right to think about well, my teacher might be carrying, he might be able to protect my child. And that's a really valid thing for parents to look at when they decide where they want to send their kids to school. The one thing that I just like clarification on from Jesse, I guess this bill is going to quote unquote get the state out of the way and fall back on the federal law, and I'm not sure what that is, and I'm not sure if that gives the federal government any special jurisdiction over the schools, and that would concern me if that were the case. So I guess I just kind of like a clarification about how that would work.
Representative Creamer?
Well, the discussion today is about the bill. We're going to have hearings on that coming up. When it gets released, this discussion more about a year from now, if the bill passes, what do we want to do in our schools? So, no, the federal government's school zone law is the one that sets up the 1,000 foot and you can't carry here and there. And right now, you should be allowed to carry on the school grounds in the state. That's what the law allows.
So if I understand you correctly, the federal law allows more, but the state of Wisconsin is restricted. Okay. Sir, please.
Good morning. I'm Tim Mahalik, the mayor of the city of Hartford, as well as a Washington County supervisor. As just a bit of a background, my wife Anne Marie and I have 7 children, so I beat you all. 4 sons and 3 daughters. All of my children who are of age, 21 or older, have a concealed carry permit. I'm a card-carrying member of the USCCA. Thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know that my children were raised with guns in the family all around them. People say, well, doesn't that affect them? Well, yeah, actually, yes, it does. My oldest son has just been commissioned as an officer in the Wisconsin National Guard, and when he was a sergeant, he was deployed in Afghanistan in Helmand Province. I have a daughter who's a specialist in the Wisconsin National Guard for CBRN, Chemical, Nuclear, Biologic. I have a son who's ROTC at St. Norbert College, and my son who's in high school, my second youngest, is looking very seriously and has been contacted by the Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut. So yes, it does have an effect when you have guns in the family and they're done responsibly, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that. My kids have mostly gone to public schools, but we have used parochial schools as well, which is why I wanted to come down and make just a couple of points. It's an interesting thing seeing we're talking mainly parochial, which of course the Christian schools here, and when one looks, if you want to take a look at that focus there, realize that when Christ was at the Garden of Gethsemane, all of his apostles had swords. Interesting about that, isn't it? And of course, when Peter cut off the ear of the temple guard, Christ said, well, put that away now because it's my time. Well, okay, but he knew that they had swords. They had swords the whole time. Remember in Scripture, it said, why didn't they attack him? Well, for fear of the Jews. Why?
Because the Jews were armed.
Okay, so please understand that when you're looking at things from a scriptural perspective, if that is what we're looking to do from a parochial deal, that to arm yourself is not anti-Christian, because I think that's been confused and I've been confronted with that. How can you do that? How can you arm yourself? How can you take a gun and do something with arms when you call yourself a Christian? Because Christians have a history and it's right in Scripture that we defended ourselves. We're not looking at being overt about it, but you have the right to defend the life that the good Lord has blessed you with. And that's one of the things, I guess, that I wanted to know from the point here, from the panel, is has this been discussed when you're looking from a parochial school perspective and a private school perspective, that, as the woman before had said, we're paying extra, and this is something that you're automatically volunteering to do with your children. You're making a point, rather than in the public school, seeing that this bill, if I'm correct, Jesse, that this is addressing right now the parochial schools first, correct? All right, so because we're doing that, if that angle allows us to get that camel's nose under the tent and allow us to align ourselves with the federal law, so we can be sure that we have the ability to protect what is most precious to us. Thank you.
That is a good point. I would ask the superintendent, is that something that you have discussed from a Christian level and getting over that fear of, okay, yes, I am harming myself, and what people feel as far as your Christianity being called into question.
Our discussions have been quite informal. It's not gone to our board level at all. As Christians and as Christian school, we certainly put all of our trust and hope in God as our protector. But as the mayor said, that does not exclude the possibility of us defending ourselves, because our God, preserver and protector, has given us brains and power to do that. So we certainly would not exclude concealed carry on our campus to protect our students, our staff, and our faculty. Just because we're sitting back waiting for God to do that. He's allowing us to do this.
Right. Mr. Moss?
I have an idea that Morningstar may be a step ahead of a lot of places in the fact that we've actually had a school and congregational open forum which was very well attended on this specific issue. And Sean did an excellent PowerPoint presentation for the congregation and school people at that point. And I was just immensely impressed at the overwhelming positive response that our people had toward concealed carry within the school and to eliminate our school as a gun-free school zone. But in addition to these kinds of things, we're also looking to other avenues. We are, as a faculty right now, talking about Alice. And I think Alice, by far, is a much better response than what we're doing right now. And our faculty is looking toward being trained at that kind of level.
And forgive me, I don't know what Alice is.
Okay, it's alert.
So it's an acronym.
It's an acronym. Looks like somebody back there knows what Alice stands for. I can't recall.
Thank you. I'm an Alice certified instructor, and it stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, Evacuate, but it is not designed to be sequential.
Yeah, and I think the point that comes up especially with Alice is the counter. And I am so much in favor of that because basically I think that C would be better used